Hello, everybody. We are now on to lesson 3 of our iReady writing. We have completed the opinion writing. We have completed the writing to inform. And now we are moving on to actually something that's you get to be really creative about. Okay? It's going to be fun. It's called writing a narrative or a legend. Okay, the type of legend or the type of narrative that we're going to write is a legend. But we're going to figure out what a legend is first. Okay, but we'll get there. All right. I want you guys, if you read your checklist, you should have your page open to 62. So if you're on page 62, good. Please follow along. I want to read this to you. Okay. So this says sharing stories. But I want you to follow along, please. Okay. So, sharing stories. Tim's great-grandfather, all right, was about to have his 90th birthday. It's pretty old. It's about as old as I am. Almost. Tim had been thinking about what to give him for this special occasion and decided to write his life story. Tim asked his mom to share details about her grandpa's life. Grandpa George has done a lot of great things, she said. He flew in the Air Force. He helped build a school in my hometown. He ran his own store, and of course, he and Grandma Louise raised 4 kids. Tim wrote all of this down. Then his mom said, Grandpa George has always been my hero. A hero. Tim imagined his great-grandfather leaping across rooftops and wearing a cape, so Tim decided to write a legend to show how important George was to his family. A legend, here, this is where I want you guys to pay attention, a legend is a story about a person in the past that has some truth to it. Okay? So, we're going to be creative in this, but legend has some truth to it. We'll get into that here in a second. It would be George's story made more exciting and fun to read with some new and exaggerated details. Part of what Tim wrote is shown on the tablet below. So on Tim's iPad, he did a little picture of his great-grandpa, Super George, and it starts out like this. It says, The Legend of George. When George was a young man, he joined the Air Force. He flew generals across the Atlantic Ocean on important missions. One night over the ocean, a wing started to fall off. George climbed outside and fixed the wing with duct tape. Then he went back inside and had a cup of coffee. Another time, George decided... So, this is a legend. George was a real person, right? Yeah, George was a real person. Did he really do those things? No. But it did have a little bit of truth to it. He was in the Air Force, right? So our legend is going to be a little bit like this. This is not our mentor text, but we'll get into that. Over here on page 63, let's have a quick look. And it says, what is narrative writing? Narrative writing tells a story, either real or imagined. Okay? This will all become more clear. Writers use techniques such as dialogue. That word is dialogue. And dialogue means, in the story, people talk to each other. So you have to use the quotations when people talk. Hello, he said. Hello would be. Right. So people talking to each other. That's dialogue. And they have to use description. You have to use a lot of descriptive words. The guy walked outside and it was nighttime. Okay. Not a bad sentence, right? How about the guy was struck by the sudden chill as he walked out into the crisp, cold air of the winter evening. Ooh, I like that one. That's a good one, right? That's a good sentence. So we can use that sentence instead of the guy walked outside and it was nighttime. Okay, see how we're going to be more descriptive. We're going to use a lot of ways to describe things, okay? So we're going to do that to bring the characters and the events to life. All right. This is going to be fun. I can't wait for these. So the key features right here, look here, 163, key features of narrative writing. And this is basically going to be on the next page, or not on the next page, but the following page after that, because this is what your assignment is going to be like. All right, so here we go. Key features of narrative writing. It has to have a beginning that introduces the characters, the setting, and the situation. The circumstances or problem. So that's the situation. So the circumstances or the problem that sets the events of the whole story in motion. The character has to have some sort of problem, and again, I'm going to tell you what that problem is here in a minute, so we'll get to that, all right? So, a middle that shows events unfolding naturally and that describes the characters, their words and actions, and their response to the events. Okay? So, yeah, we're going to use a lot of descriptive things, and the middle that shows the events unfolding naturally, according to the way you start your story. Right? The next part says it has to have dialogue that shows what the characters think and feel. All right? Dialogue means people talking to each other. Transitional words, phrases, and clauses that make the sequence of events clear. First they did this, then they went over here. So those kind of first, next, last. All right? Those are the sequences that we're going to go through. Transitional words that help us make the sequence of events clear. That's what I meant to say. Then we're going to have concrete words and sensory details that help readers imagine the story. Remember when I talked about the going out in the nighttime? Concrete words that help you think. I mean, he could smell the fumes from the gasoline that was poured near the flames. It brings up all kinds of, you can smell it, okay? So, I mean, it brings up danger. I mean, all the descriptive words, those kind of things, okay? And then it has to have an ending that tells how the problem is solved and brings the story to a satisfying conclusion. A happy ending, okay? It tells how the problem is solved. So they had to figure out a solution to the problem, and then it had to bring the story to a satisfying conclusion. Right? Okay. Now, this is lesson 3 of our iReady writing. We're halfway through the year, and we've only done 2 writing lessons. So, let's get started on this right now. Okay? So flip the page, and you will find step 1. Away we go. Here we go. This should be like old news to you guys, okay? So study a mentor text, right? So we're going to study this mentor text. You guys know exactly. The mentor text is a really good piece of writing by someone who wrote this. In this case, it's Lily Alfarsi. There's a young lady named Lily Alfarsi. And then Lily wrote a story. She wrote a legend, all right? A pretty cool legend. And I'm going to go through this with you right now. I know our time's going a little bit long now, but you guys can always pause it and come back to it later. Whatever. Power through, kids. Okay. So I'm going to read this with you. The mentor text says, I'm sorry, let me stop. It is titled "The Best Gator Wrestler of 1804" by Lily Alfarsi. All right. You've probably heard about Davy Crockett's skill at wrestling big, scaly alligators. Here's something you might not know, though. One year, another great gator wrestler challenged him for his title of Best Gator Wrestler. Lulu Mae Hardeen, a cook from Alabama, faced Davy Crockett in the Southern States Gator Wrestling Competition of 1804 in the Great Swamp of Virginia. Though still a teenager, Davy had won the contest the last 4 years running. Every year, 3 or 4 brave fellows came forward to challenge him, but they always lost. Sometimes they lost body parts too. Then came that hot, cloudy day in 1804. The air was as thick and heavy as a blanket, as if a storm was about to break. Still, hundreds of people turned out to watch the contest. Davy Crockett strode into the ring, faced his enormous alligator, and shouted, "Are you ready for me, Gator?" The gator didn't say a word, of course, but swept its scaly tail back and forth. Faster than you can blink, Davy straddled that gator and flipped it onto its back. Then, like a cowboy roping a steer, he tied the gator's front and back legs together. The gator was defeated. The next wrestler didn't do as well. He lost the tip of his finger to his gator's sharp teeth and ran away howling. Then Lulu Mae entered the ring. She was nearly as tall as Davy. Her arms were powerful from years of kneading bread dough. She looked her big, mean gator straight in the eye and cried, "Are you ready for me, Gator?" Just as Davy had done, the gator gave her a big gator smile. The battle began. Lulu Mae was light on her feet, dancing around the gator as it spun to snap at her. The gator got so dizzy that Lulu Mae flipped and tied it without breaking a sweat. Now it was time to break the tie, and Davy was getting nervous. Could Lulu Mae Hardeen wrestle a bigger gator than he could? He and Lulu Mae stood together in the ring and shook hands. "Hope you won't be a sore loser, Lulu Mae Hardeen," Davy boomed. Lulu Mae waved a finger at him and tossed one of her fresh-made biscuits his way. Davy easily caught it and shoved the sweet-smelling biscuit into his pants pocket. "Hope you won't be a sore loser, Davy Crockett," Lulu Mae said. Then she gave him a big gator-sized smile. Just then, the guards led in 2 of the biggest gators the crowd had ever seen. Everybody clapped and cheered. Lulu Mae didn't look the least bit worried. Her gator moved on her fast. She got her hands around its snout, but it was so big she couldn't flip it. Instead, the 2 of them, Gator and Cook, just stood still. Lulu Mae kept trying to flip the beast, and the beast kept trying to escape. Each was exactly as strong as the other. Neither could move an inch. Davy, on the other hand, thought fast. As his gator approached, he took the light, fluffy biscuit out of his pocket and tossed it over the gator's head. Surprised, the gator snatched at the biscuit, grabbing it and chewing it up. The biscuit was so delicious that the gator closed its eyes in pleasure. While the gator was distracted, Davy got his hands around it and flipped it, tying its legs tightly. "Cheater! Cheater!" the crowd cried the crowd. The judges argued for an hour, yelling and shouting and shaking their fists. Eventually, however, they ruled that biscuits were allowed, and that that is how Davy Crockett used his strength and some quick thinking to beat Lulu Mae Hardeen at gator wrestling, winning the title of Best Gator Wrestler of 1804. All right, so that is that's our mentor text. All right, that is a legend. I don't know if you guys really know this or not, Davy Crockett is a real guy. He lived in the 1800s, okay, long, long time ago. Um, he was a famous frontiersman. He was a politician. He fought in battles and wars, and he was at the Battle of the Alamo. I mean, Davy Crockett was a really famous guy back in the day, all right? But this never really happened, all right? That's the whole thing about this legend is there's no Lulu May Hardin. There's no Gator Wrestling Championship. However, there is a real Davy Crockett. And boy, does this make a fun story, doesn't it? Okay, so like Lily Alfarsi took a real character in a real place, swamps of Virginia. I assume there's swamps in Virginia. There is, actually. And she put Davy Crockett in there, and she created some other characters, and it created a whole story. And that's how we got this whole legend here for our mentor text, which is a good story again, okay? But now we're going to analyze it. And I'll go through that again with you here. I know we're up to 16 minutes. Holy moly. But all right, here we go. 1, establish a situation. Like you're going to do in your story, you're going to establish a situation. You have to, let's figure this out. How did Lily Alfarsi establish her situation in this story? All right, so the writer introduces Davy's problem right away. All right, draw a dashed line under the sentence that tells Davy's problem. We got to figure out what Davy's problem is. All right, his problem is, you probably heard about Davy Crockett's skill at wrestling big, scaly alligators. That's not a problem. Here's something you might not know, though. One year, another great gator wrestler challenged him for his title of Best Gator Wrestler. That is a problem. Okay? So that is Davy Crockett's first big problem in the story. All right? That sets up the rest of the story. So let's draw a dashed line underneath that part. One year, another great gator wrestler challenged him for his title of Best Gator Wrestler. All right? Dot, 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 dash line, dash line, dash line. You guys know how to do that. Now, number 2. Sensory details. What does that mean, sensory? Sensory is the senses. Smell, sight, touch, hearing, taste. Is that 5? Yeah, 5. Okay. So those are your 5 senses. So sensory details, these are details that you can see. That wants you to give details it wants you to be able to, like you're smelling something, or something that describes the area, a sweet smelling flower-filled meadow, I mean, something like that. That's what they're talking about. Sensory details. A smelly, stinky sewer pipe or something like that. Right? Just sensory. You can smell that already. All right. Here we go. Number 2. Sensory details. In paragraph 3, find paragraph 3. Okay. Underline details that describe the setting. The setting is where it takes place, but what they're asking you to do is describe the things that are describing the setting. Okay, let's figure out where this is taking place. Where is this taking place in paragraph 3? Then came that hot, cloudy day in 1804. The air was thick and heavy as a blanket, as if a storm was about to break. Still, okay. Actually, that's it. Okay, then came that hot, cloudy day. They're asking you when they say, okay, it could have been an overcast day in 1804, right? Then came that hot, cloudy day in 1804. The air was as thick and heavy as a blanket, as if a storm was about to break. That really, really puts you there, doesn't it? That tells you exactly how the characters are, what they're experiencing. Okay, so those are the details. We're gonna spice up our sentences with these kind of details in this story. All right, yeah, all right. So okay, now number 3, concrete words. Oh yeah, you were supposed to underline hot, cloudy day in 1804. The air was thick and heavy as a blanket, as if a storm was about to break. Underline that now, please. Make sure that's underlined, not dashed line. Underline. Now, 3, concrete words. In paragraph 3, the writer shows Davy's confidence and swagger. That you guys know what swagger means, all right? He's almost a little arrogant, okay, about how good he is. And so he's confident and swagger by describing his movements with very specific words and phrases. Draw a box around each of these words and phrases. Now, I want you guys. Okay, this is in paragraph 3, and we've already underlined up to as if a storm is about to break. Still, hundreds of people turned out to watch the contest. Davy Crockett strode into the ring. He could have walked into the ring, couldn't he? Strode. He strode. That says he walked with a confidence into the ring. So I think that's a good concrete word. Strode in there. Let's put a box around that. Strode. That means that's the past tense of stride, and when you stride, it's from one step to another. Stride. Okay. Let's see. Davy Crockett strode into the ring. He faced his enormous alligator. Could he have... No, I think we'll leave faced out, okay? As says, are you ready for me? Gator? The gator didn't say a word, of course, but swept its scaly tail back and forth faster than you can blink. Davy straddled that gator and then flipped it on its back. Yeah, that's a good one. He straddled that gator and he flipped it on its back. So that is, I would say that's a concrete word. All right? It describes his movements with very specific words and phrases. So I would put a box around straddled that gator too. All right? Concrete words. I like that. Draw a box around each of these words and phrases. So, confidence and swagger by describing his movements with very specific words. I don't see any more in that paragraph, so we're going to leave that alone for now and go on to number 4. Number 4 on the next page over here says description. Underline the detail the writer uses in paragraph 5 to show Lulu May's strength. Now, paragraph 5 is the top paragraph over here, and it says Lulu May entered the ring. It doesn't say anything about it. She was nearly as tall as Davy. It just says she's tall. Her arms were powerful from years of kneading bread dough. Does that sentence does that use detail to show Lulu May's strength? It does. Let's underline that sentence. Her arms were powerful from years of kneading bread dough. More descriptive words or descriptive sentences. All right. Number 5, dialogue. Do you guys remember what I said dialogue was? Dialogue is when they speak. Okay, that's the spoken word when you write, when you have to use the parentheses. There will be a lesson on using these parentheses correctly here coming up. Okay? So, dialogue. The words that Davy and Lulu May say to each other in paragraphs 8 and 9 are practically the same. Underline these 2 sentences of dialogue. Then tell why you think the writer has both characters say this. The first part's easy. The second part's not so easy. All right? It's easy to figure out. They don't have really too many speaking lines. They only say, hope you won't be a sore loser, Lulu May Hardeen. And then she says, Hope you won't be a sore loser, Davy Crockett. All right, so that's really, you're going to underline those. All right. Why, though? Why? Here's the important part. You're going to write down, why do you think those two lines, why did the writer put those in there in almost the same thing? What does it tell? What does it tell about both characters? Hope you won't be a sore loser. They haven't even had the contest yet, right? The final contest. But there's he's saying, I hope you won't be a sore loser. That sounds pretty confident, doesn't it? Yeah. He's saying, I know I'm going to win, and I hope you won't be a sore loser. And she's saying, I know I'm going to win, and I hope you won't be a sore loser. So she's showing that they're both very, very, very confident. All right, and you can use this for your okay. The writer wants to show that both Davy and Lulu May were boastful and confident, and also that they both kind of feel that they were both a little bit evenly matched. They knew it. Okay, so you hopefully have already underlined the two speaking parts. Hope you won't be a sore loser, Lulu May. Hope you won't be a sore loser, Davy. And then go on to tell me why. But I'm going to move on to 6 really quickly because I want to get this done before a half hour. All right, so ending. 6, the ending of the narrative should provide a satisfying ending. Draw a dashed line, ... under the sentence in paragraph 12 that tells how the winner was decided. Okay? How was the winner decided? How did they find... Okay, let's look at paragraph 12. The judges argued for an hour, yelling and shouting and shaking their fists, and eventually, however, they ruled that biscuits were allowed. And that is how Davy Crockett used his strength and some quick thinking to beat Lulu May Harding. So, how was the winner decided? Yes. Eventually, however, they ruled that biscuits were allowed. Underneath that, okay? All right. So, step 1, study a mentor text. We have done it together. How about that? Now, if you have any questions about this, please remember, mess me. Okay? We will. We can always get on Teams meetings too. Okay? If you guys want to do a personal Teams meetings, really quick. If you just want to have questions, you can ask me through messages. But always available. Always going to be here. Hope to see you guys soon.